Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Sean with Kelly Realty, and we got Bobby here with Jaffery Insurance. Bobby, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey, Sean, thanks for having me here, man. I appreciate it. Like you said, I'm Bobby Jaffery with Jaffery Insurance. We're a local independent insurance broker here with 20 plus different carriers to help you shop and find the best insurance deal in the market. We are going on 5 years on the independent channel, and prior to that, we were a State Farm agency for 7 years. So we have both sides of the way insurance gets conducted with the captive side where you're working with one company, and on the independent side now where we have 20 plus that we work with. So that's pretty much what we do over here.
That's fantastic. So you have lots of options to help people find the best insurance coverage for the best price, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're able to mix and match, which is nice. Sometimes your home and auto doesn't always fit with one company, and you kind of have to separate things, and we can do that here, but still keep you within one agency, one point of contact.
Oh, that's very nice. So yeah, we're located here in Nebraska, kind of on the border of Iowa as well. We're known to get lots of weather-related damage, like hail and wind, stuff like that. So insurance claims seem to come up not super common, but they do come up enough to have a conversation about it. What is typically the process for someone when they want to file a claim and you're their insurance agent?
Absolutely. So we tell all of our clients to call us first prior, just to give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on. We have a claim specialist in our office that actually will take every phone call, kind of figure out what's going on, see if the damage or see what's going on, if it makes sense, if that's something we think is covered or not. We're obviously not licensed on the claim side of things, but we know what's typically covered or not, so we can have an idea beforehand they go to file a claim. Because the last thing you want to do is file a claim and it's not covered or there's nothing paid out, and that stays on your insurance history for 3 to 5 years at minimum, even if there's nothing paid out. So it's very important to talk to somebody before, figure out if it is something that potentially could be covered. What does my deductible look like? Does it make sense? And then we'll take that information, share it over to our carrier, whoever they're with. For example, if they're with Nationwide, we call Nationwide, get the claim started for them as a courtesy service, as working with our agency. And then the insurance company, Nationwide, will reach out to them within 24 hours, and then they work together. And then they also will use us as a point of contact. But within 24 hours, they get contacted, and then they'll get an adjuster out there to meet with, a roofer, whoever the client has. And they'll go meet together, take a look, see what makes sense, do their investigation, and then they come back with an offer. Um, and then pretty much the client can accept or say no. We think we deserve a little bit more, and then we can go back to the adjusters and claim specialists and kind of talk through it.
Okay, cool. So the first step would be to contact you guys. You guys contact the insurance carrier. The carrier then contacts the customer, and they kind of start that claim process that way.
Correct. Correct.
Cool. So I know you mentioned that if you file a claim, it stays on that person's insurance kind of record for the next 3 to 5 years. Does that actually stay on that person's record or the property's record?
Yeah, that is a good question. Insurance is always going to follow the person, rather than the property. So if you have two claims on your personal name and you go to buy a new house, those two claims will follow you. But if you don't have any claims and you buy a new house and that house has a claim within the last 3 years, we can just put that it was the previous owner, and that doesn't count against the new buyer.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, cool. So do you have any best practices that you would recommend your customers when filing a claim? I know you kind of mentioned that it might be a good idea to have like a roofer or a contractor there to meet the adjuster. Why is that important?
So that part is very important because you always want to have kind of like a third party person, because the adjuster, whether it's the adjuster for the company or a third party adjuster, they're going to go out and look at the damages, but they're trying to do what's best interest for the company. For example, Nationwide, they want to do what's best. They're going to look at the damage, see if it, see what kind of makes sense. But it's important to have your person because they'll be the third person coming into this situation, and they can talk with the adjuster and say, hey, no, look at this. There is actually some damage here. You said there wasn't. And it doesn't, it just gives that a third eye view almost. Um, and sometimes, clients, when you're frustrated and you're kind of going through that situation, you don't always really know the best verbiage or what words to say or how to talk to the adjuster. And you don't want to say the wrong thing, obviously, as well, right? You don't want to be like, oh, that's old damage, or no, that was there before, right? Like there's just certain things that having that third party person will help, because they take notes, they document everything, and it's all recorded. So that's probably why it's important.
Yeah, and they're in the industry. They do roofs every day. They probably know the city codes and
Yeah,
stuff like that, and can explain it a little bit better than just a typical
absolutely.
homeowner could.
Absolutely. And we
So
have,
go ahead.
um, sorry, yeah, I was going to say if somebody doesn't have, they don't know a roofer, or maybe this is their first time ever owning a home and they just don't have any contacts. We do have, almost like a list of vendors that we have. So legally, we give them three options. Hey, these are three contractors or three roofing companies that you can reach out to if you don't have one. And you can contact them and they can kind of work through. So you're not always stuck with one roofer, one contractor, one company. Like it's the insurance companies are kind of lenient on that side to allow you to work with whoever, you already have a relationship with potentially.
Yeah, that's good. So in Nebraska, we have all four seasons. Sometimes it gets a little cold out, and you might get a lot of times when we're dealing with customers who have their house up for sale, they might have to file a claim because the home inspector during their inspection process might have found roof damage, and they want
Mhm.
that repaired or replaced prior to closing. Um, and a lot of the times, there's a 25% chance that it'll happen during the winter, and that work might not be able to get done before closing. So, have you seen that or experienced that before?
Yes. There's been a few situations that we kind of run into that, and it seems that it's kind of becoming a little popular nowadays. With just and I think maybe that kind of has to do with just the economy and COVID, and with the material shortages and just taking longer for materials to get there. I think that's played a big factor. So I think insurance companies are realizing that just things are just a lot more slower in today's world as far as getting materials and things done, just because you never know what's going to happen with the weather. So where I've came into and the situations I've dealt with, I'm talking to my underwriters on the insurance side and just letting them know what's going on. Like, hey, they're gonna be putting a new roof on this house. It's not done yet, but just be aware that, if you guys go do an inspection, because right now most insurance companies are doing inspections on a lot of the houses. So they will go and look at the house and see the roof and come back to you and say, hey, what's going on? You told me this is a new roof. This is really not. So having that upfront communication, working with the underwriters, they've allowed us in certain cases to just put the roof as new and give us a time frame of when that needs to be done. And worst case scenario, what happens is you just have to go with the original, what the roof age or the condition was at the time before they, put a new roof on. And then you can update that within that same policy later on once the new roof is actually put on. So I've done it. I just had the situation. It was a 2012 roof. They found out it was some damage on there, but the sellers agreed to put a new roof on for the buyer. So what they're doing is I'm gonna put I put the original roof 2012. They put the new roof on 2 months later. I went and updated the policy, and then the premium, it went down a significant amount. Almost over 1,000 a year with that new roof.
Yeah.
So I think having that upfront communication with the underwriters is kind of how we've been able to navigate through these scenarios and kind of make it just as easy as possible for the client.
That makes sense. I wouldn't mind sharing this document here that I got from a roofing contractor just to kind of
Absolutely.
give people an idea. So we're working on a house that's under contract to sell. It's in January 8th, so we have temperatures below freezing. The work can't get completed, so here's a letter from the contractor says we will not be able to complete the roof until weather permits. And then they describe what kind of weather they're going to need in order to install that roof. 15 consecutive days of 45-degree temperature, and another 7 days after that, after the completion of the roof repair for it to kind of settle. And the reason why is because uh, to have proper application of the shingles and to meet the specifications of the warranty. So if the roof isn't completed uh, with those temperatures, then they're not going to be able to warranty the roof. So that's
Yep.
kind of important. And when we're dealing with people who are buying and selling a real estate transaction, a lot of times when the roof can't get completed or the repairs can't get completed before closing, the insurance proceeds will be held at title. So we'll give the roofing invoice to title. They'll hold the funds in escrow until the roof repairs are done, and then they'll release those funds to the contractor with a paid invoice. And so that's kind of how we deal with it on the real estate side when we still need to close on the house, but the repairs can't get completed.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. Yeah, that's actually I'm glad you mentioned that because that letter actually would probably in a lot of cases for most companies, if you just give them that letter, they're just aware of the situation, what's going on. They'll probably allow you to rate it with that new roof with the condition of it's going to be done by that date. Um, I've just my underwriters specifically, they just trusted me with the word of mouth. But that letter for a lot of other companies, honestly, would make it a lot easier. And they just understand right now. It's just a tough time to really get any work done on
Yeah,
houses. It's just
it's too cold.
mhm,
So,
absolutely.
one last question before we get off the line here.
Yeah.
What do you think is the typical timeline from the start of a claim to the finalization of the claim? So people know,
Yeah.
like, hey, if they're in the process of selling their home, how long might this take on a typical size claim? And you might be able to describe like a dollar amount, which you would say is kind of typical.
Yeah, honestly, right now what we've been seeing and obviously weather permitted, just depending on how things are on a typical claim, it's pretty straightforward. There's no arguments as far as like how much is paid out if the client just agrees to that initial offer. Usually 30 to 45 days, it's wrapped up, completed, funds are paid out. We've even had within 5 days where they just released EFT funds straight to because all they had to do is fly a drone over the house and see that there is a lot of damage. So that's warranted enough for them to go ahead and just take care of it. Because right now a lot of companies are using that drone imagery, aerial imagery to because they don't either have enough manpower or they just would rather keep their people inside and just have that. But if it's a situation where they're not sure based off the drone images, then they will have somebody go out there. So 30 to 45 days is typical. If you're in a situation like you are where the weather is going to play a factor into it, right? What they'll do is they'll hold funds in reserve once they find out, oh, the weather, it's going to take us 3 months. So the insurance company will hold that funds in reserve. And then once they're able, the contractor to get the work done, similar to how you said, the escrow holds the funds. The insurance company will hold the funds and then release it once they're able to get out there and put that roof on or fix all the damages. And then the claim gets closed out after that. So it's typically when the work is done, but sometimes it can be faster just depending on what type of damage needs to be taken care of, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
As far
So
as dollar amount, Um, it really varies. Right
When would a claim dollar amount
now I'm
become
seeing,
sorry, when would a claim amount become atypical above a certain amount? Like when would it start to be like, oh, now we got to get some higher up people involved. We got to get some managers to look at
uh,
it, approve it.
yeah, honestly, I would say it with hail, it's a little different. With something like water damage, that can typically be on a higher amount because water damage is typically, I mean, it's minimum 10,000 probably, usually, especially if your basement floods and all this stuff. I had two of them this year that were 60,000 water claims paid out. Um, no manager really had to get involved. I think once on something like that, over 100,000 is when a manager or something would kind of have to approve that. On a typical wind or hail situation for a roof, I'm seeing 20 to 30,000 paid out without any really approval from a manager standpoint. If they can tell that the damage is legit and they need to pay out on it. But really most cases right now today with just how streamlined everything is, there it's just yeah. I mean, um there's really it's hard to tell on a dollar amount because they don't really tell us that information either.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, really you would get the manager involved if a client is upset or if they're not happy with the payout, something like that.
Hmm.
But usually every claim has a claim specialist and a claims manager that has a team. So usually they're overlooking it, but manager won't really step in, I guess.
Okay. That makes sense. Well, I appreciate you hopping on and giving us some great information today. If anyone has any questions about insurance or insurance claims, feel free to reach out to Bobby. Um, Maybe you can share your website or email. And
Absolutely, yeah. So it's just website is just Jaffery, Jaffery insurance.com. And then my email is just Bobby, Bobby at Jaffery, Jaffery insurance.com. You can reach out to me on any of those and I'd be more than happy to answer some questions.
all right. Well, great. Thank you. Have a great day, Bobby. We'll talk
Yeah,
with you soon.
absolutely. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye
Take
bye.
care.